First of all, my name is George Schneider, and I'm not an expert by any means. I want to clarify that at the beginning. However, I've been around for a while, 83 years.
We live in the heartland of America, producing food for the world on some of the richest soil on the planet. With great soil comes great responsibility. Schneider's background interests evolved over time from working at the Nebraska Game Commission to teaching biological sciences at Quincy University. Soil health is a recurring theme in his life's work as a teacher, farmer, and conservationist.
Importance of soil. If we didn't have soil, I don't think any of us would be around here. All life hinges on the stability and life of our soil. I mean, we can keep putting on fertilizer and everything else, but the soil is a living component of our environment. It's constantly changing, depending on what organisms are there and what we do to the soil for those organisms is very important. And I think a lot of people should realize this. Even if you're in town, it should be very important to you what I'm putting on my lawn. And a lot of this is eventually going to wind up down the river systems and maybe affect the delta down in the Gulf there.
Schneider drove us around to see examples of erosion and soil loss in his area.
Well, this is the silt that came off the farm there and washed into the ditch. You can see about 2 or 3 inches came off of that.
Yeah.
And all the seed that was planted. The dry dam is pretty long, and it couldn't hold all the water, so it came over the top and did some pretty good cutting. See, there's some pretty good cutting right there.
Cutting is another term for erosion that leaves a visible valley of soil loss in the field.
There's a waterway with down a lot of good dry dam right here.
I had never heard of a dry dam, so I asked Schneider to explain.
Well, a dry dam functions in more or less stopping the water temporarily that's coming down the side of a hill or whatever in a slope. And then there's a pipe there buried down in, and it's got slots or holes on the sides and all around, and then lowers this water gradually. So the speed of the water has been slowed down considerably, so it stops all this cutting, which we call erosion. And they are very useful, except this last rain. A lot of the water went over the dam. The pipes couldn't carry it away.
Yeah.
So they call them, eventually they dry up, so they call them a dry dam. Yeah, there you can see it's probably filling up with silt, too.
Grass waterways are another way to reduce erosion.
He's got good waterways. That's going to catch a lot of the soil. But eventually the waterway is going to fill up from siltation. And then the water starts running around the outside of the grass waterway. See the grass waterway, how it got filled up? There should be a grass waterway right there.
There are ways to enrich the soil and prevent its loss.
Soil is the easiest thing to recover and build back for the next year. And an important component with that is the organic matter. And we're learning in the last couple of decades now that we should leave a lot of organic matter on the surface. This reduces erosion because when it rains, you don't have that splash effect where the soil particles sent flowing through the sky, you know. We got the biodiversity, you got the organic matter, and it reduces the amount of cultivation necessary because you can plant right in this organic matter on top. It helps hold the moisture in, so you don't lose so much moisture by evaporation. So no-till planting, in my estimation, is the way to go.
Conservation and sustainability are principles Schneider has tried to live by his entire life.
Years ago, that's what we talked about always, was conservation. We never heard of the word sustainability. Conservation means to use wisely. However, a lot of our soil resources are not used wisely. And sustainability would add more than just use. What can we do to build? And with sustainability, you'd be concerned, or you have any earthworms in there. Earthworms are very important, and if we put all kinds of biocides on the soil, you're not going to have earthworms. And they keep turning over the topsoil too by leaving their castings on top. Biodiversity is very important. And if you keep killing off everything in the soil, you're not going to have biodiversity. There's a lot of things like our living. The fungi. Fungi are very important for absorption of nutrients and that into the plant. Very, very close relationship there.
Pollinators above ground can be just as important as the earthworms and fungi below.
I think it's kind of evident when you raise fruit trees or crops that you oftentimes see changes take place in the pollinators. Right now, this spring, we have not seen as many wild bees. Our concern was here a couple of years ago for the bee diseases and that. And, of course, we don't have many honeybees either, but I noticed that there's not nearly as many wild bees this year. Now, there's other things that pollinate too. Even hummingbirds can be considered a pollinator, and butterflies. My wife and I have developed a butterfly garden, which we are very interested in. We're getting kind of old for it, but it's amazing how you can attract, and I think a lot of people in town should be doing this. They can raise certain plants, such as the butterfly milkweed, sometimes just called butterfly weed. It's amazing how it will attract certain butterflies. The monarch butterfly is in serious danger, and a lot of this may be due to other practices such as mowing road ditches, spraying milkweeds, or whatever. The larvae have to have milkweed for their food when they're developing. So my wife and I are even starting to raise some special milkweeds, but as far as the garden goes, you could really reduce your grocery list considerably by raising vegetables. And it can be even on your deck if you want. Get some big planters and you can raise tomatoes or anything like that. You don't have to spray the heck out of them either, you know. I think we have to be very concerned about directions on our biocides, because instead of just wearing gloves and get it taken care of, read the directions, because a lot of those biocides are what get washed down the river.
Should a body greet a body coming through the ride?
That was
Never reason why. Oh dear.
Ornithology, mammalogy. I didn't have ichthyology.
They also call them dry dams.
Yeah, you can call them dry dams. What do I call them?
Wing dams.
Yeah, dry dams is a better word. See, I knew I brought you along for
Are there any?
See, this guy's got a mow way down here. I don't know why.
Just for fun.
Dumb shit. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have that on. They looked like they were too tired to wave. He's in a hurry to go home. Oh, he's in a ditch. First of all, my name is George Schneider, and I'm not an expert by any means. I want to clarify that at the beginning. However, I've been around for a while, 83 years, and I was born and raised out in the dust storm in Nebraska, or during the Dust Bowl days, and I lived on a farm all my younger years through high school and that, and then I went into the Army, and then after the Army, I went to the University of Nebraska and received my degrees there. I was primarily interested in wildlife management, and somehow or other got away from that whenever I got a call from my brother-in-law here at Quincy, Illinois, wanting me to sub for somebody for 2 years. Well, that worked out good, and I enjoyed teaching. However, I never had one education class, and I guess they liked me, kept me there for 38 years, and that guy that I replaced never came back. He must have liked his new location well, too. But anyhow, I was always interested in wildlife because I was a hunter and a fisherman and a farmer. I loved hunting and fishing. And I looked out on a job where a foreman asked me if I'd like to just work for him, because he was taking his vacation time and working on this job. So I took him up on it, and it was a job with the Nebraska Game Commission. So I worked in habitat restoration there. And later, while in college at university, I worked with pheasants and quail and habitat restoration. So I was just gradually developing more and more of an interest. And then I switched over to education. But I enjoyed teaching. But anyhow, I'm not an expert, and I have some of my own ideas possibly about how to do things. I can ask my wife about that. I had a double major, botany and zoology. So I taught several courses in alternate years, since they didn't have a lot of teachers in those areas. So I taught introductory classes. I taught invertebrate zoology, general ecology, natural resource conservation, advanced botany, ornithology, mammalogy. I didn't have ichthyology, so I didn't teach that. But a lot of these field courses is what I was mainly interested in, and were more applicable, I think, to my field rather than medicine, Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it, loved it. Mm-hmm. And 38 years is a pretty long time. Yeah. But it's quite rewarding. Teaching is. You don't always see your rewards right away. A lot of times it may be years later you see your rewards. What kind of research? Well, I did environmental impact, like for the new bridge here in Quincy. I